Let's see. Next up, we got the most famous killing in history. This is about Caesar. I want to watch.
It's the 15th of March, 44 BC, in Rome. The most powerful man in the Roman Republic, the dictator Julius Caesar, walks through the doors of the Curia of Pompey, the temporary gathering point for the Roman Senate's meetings. The usual venue, the Roman Forum, a kilometre to the southeast, is undergoing renovation.
Bro, who came up with this bag? Like, I'm trying to get my food and it's like, how the hell? You know what?
To build a new Senate house in Caesar's name, and is unavailable. The Curia, meaning meeting place in Latin, is located at the eastern point of a large open courtyard known as the Portico of Pompey. Compared to the Forum, it's rather secluded. It has no direct access to the side streets of Rome, and the only exits lead directly onto the portico.
The best fries, if you know, you know.
Today, this area is occupied by a large group of armed gladiators, who are loitering near the Curia entrance, trying to stay inconspicuous. Inside the Curia, senators are nervously milling about. They watch as Caesar takes a seat on his golden ceremonial chair at the front of the room.
Or
Caesar's right-hand man and closest ally is...
wait, was Caesar a good guy? I don't know, but Aura.
Consul Mark Antony, who had been with him before he entered, is nowhere to be seen. Unbeknownst to him,
He was
Antony
like a founding father, but for Rome, bro. That's Aura.
But he's been
Where's my
distracted by another senator. Caesar is alone. Across the room, a man rises from the benches and starts walking towards him.
Wait, all I know is that it was girls that loved him.
But
Dude,
first, this video is sponsored.
This is good
by
editing.
Odoo. This is a tool that provides business to you.
W sponsor, I bought 10 of them.
Holders with unlimited hosting.
To understand Caesar's death,
Let's get back into the
Okay,
assassination.
I think he was a politician, but maybe because he was like a politician, that's probably why he died or something.
to understand
like
Caesar's
assassinated.
death, we have to understand how he got here. In the eyes of Rome's political elite, Caesar had grown too powerful.
I
Over the
remember
course
my
of an
history, bro.
almost 40-year career, he reached Rome's highest public office, consul. He conquered all of modern-day France,
Holy Aura,
Belgium,
bro.
and parts of Switzerland, Germany, and the Netherlands. By all accounts, he was a military genius, and charismatic too. His armies, comprised of Roman legions, became loyal to him and only him.
Jeez.
His many victories with them made him fabulously wealthy. Finally, he
Damn.
had a habit of pandering to the masses,
Turn the Roman
imposing
Republic.
on popular policies,
Oh,
and presenting
okay.
himself as a man of the people. He became very popular, perhaps too popular.
Man.
In 49 BC, fearing Caesar was becoming larger than Rome, the Senate, alongside his chief rival, Pompey the Great, moved against him. They attempted to recall him from his campaign in Gaul and strip him of his military command.
That's crazy, bro.
A command which gave him legal immunity
Jealousy for some people could just
under
like
Roman law.
decide, nah, he's getting too powerful, fuck him. And like, bro, really?
Sensing that his enemies wished to prosecute him and curb his power
That's
on his
crazy.
return to the city, Caesar made a fateful decision. With a legion of soldiers in tow, he crossed the Rubicon River in northern Italy. The river marked the border between the Roman heartland and its other provinces, and by Roman law, all returning generals had to disband their armies and lay down their arms before crossing it, as to avoid internal conflicts.
Damn.
By deliberately ignoring this, Caesar started a civil war. One
What?
that would last 4 years and span the entire republic. In March of 45 BC, he would win that civil war, having defeated Pompey the Great.
Damn, Caesar really said, I'm gonna still do my thing and I'm gonna win the war. That's crazy. oversimplified. I've seen some of his videos.
The only
I
man
can
that
react
could
to them
rival
though.
him
I can still do
in
that.
influence and wealth. This made him the undisputed
I
most
like
powerful
him though.
man
I like
in
him.
Rome.
I'll probably
The
do some
Senate,
of his
an
videos.
institution that once sought to reduce his power and influence, elected him to the consulship a further 3 times. And
Damn.
finally, in February of 44 BC, granted him the title of dictator for life. For a time before the foundation of the Roman Republic, Rome had been ruled by kings. Tyrannical,
Oh, okay.
cruel kings. When the last monarch, Tarquin the Proud, was overthrown around 509 BC, the Roman people, particularly the conservative aristocracy that would...
Now, no one will ever debate me on this, but people back then, like the Roman Empire, they were smarter than humans are today.
end up forming most of the Senate.
Cinema.
vowed that
That's
king
my.
should
No
rule
one could
Rome
ever
again.
debate me on that.
It now seemed that Caesar
Oversimplified.
fancied himself a king. He began
We rely on technology so much that we can't even get out of bed without an alarm clock on our phone. Like, brother, these people out here building like castles and shit. Like, ain't no way, bro.
wearing opulent
Humans are
royal
so
garbs
smart.
and constructing statues of himself in public. His allies called for extravagant celebrations in his honor and proposed and later succeeded in changing the month of Quintilis, the month he was born, to Julius. He
Julius,
installed in the
holy
Senate
aura.
a golden chair designed specifically for him,
Mm.
chair upon which he sits today. Caesar had grown too powerful, and he was flaunting it.
Oh, was he?
The continued existence of the Republic. If defeating him on the battlefield was impossible, his foes would have to find another way to bring him down.
Nah. There's no way.
The men who conspired to kill Caesar, a group of about 60, are diverse in their backgrounds. A few are former allies who felt their loyalty to him had not been sufficiently rewarded.
I swear. Well, I think I do remember this. Like, history. Some shit.
Some are remnants of the Pompeian faction, the group
I
that
swear I
fought
remember
Caesar
this shit,
during the Civil
like-
War under Pompey the Great.
In class or
A
something.
group he, perhaps foolishly, pardoned. A handful simply
I think
opposed
I read a
his
book or
accumulation
something.
of power out of principle, fearing he would destroy the state's republican values. Most, however, are members of the conservative aristocracy, who profit greatly from Rome's republican form of government as they monopolize
See,
the Senate
Rome invented governments that we still use to this day. So you can't tell me they weren't smart enough, like, brother.
and thus oppose Caesar's central.
If you and if you give these humans crypto, I don't know that, but you give these humans our technology, shit, I don't know what they could build.
These men had been meeting in secret for months to hatch a plan to kill him. They considered
Crypto.
assassinating him in public on a
I
street
gotta
in
see
Rome
that.
known as the Via Sacra.
I
This
don't.
was
What
probably
is
abandoned because the
crypto?
venue was too public. Any ally of Caesar's, if they were nearby, could simply intervene. Caesar had no bodyguards on payroll while in the city,
What?
but he was known to surround himself with some particularly intimidating friends to compensate.
Some
Another
goons.
questionable idea was flinging him from a bridge and placing a number of armed men
Aw,
below
that's
it
messed
to
up.
ensure the fall would be fatal.
That's messed up.
They also considered striking while he was at a gladiator show,
Oh, okay,
as they
okay.
could hide the assassins in plain sight, posing as gladiators.
Oh, that's so messed
Ultimately,
up.
though, a Senate session on the 15th of March was selected to be the best.
But didn't Caesar's best man snitch on the whole plan? So he knew. I think he knew of something. I swear.
Soon after
I
this
could be
date,
wrong.
Caesar would be outside of the city on a military campaign to defeat the Dacians and the Parthian
So
Empire
aura,
to
bro.
Rome's
So aura.
east, making it far more difficult for them to reach him and allowing him to accumulate even more glory, prestige, and power. Choosing a Senate meeting made sense, too. All those
okay.
present were sure to be unarmed, as it was generally prohibited to bring weapons into the Senate House.
Makes
Making
sense.
resistance unlikely. Most of the Senate were indeed loyal to Caesar, but even his closest allies would think twice to spring to his defense when faced with a blade.
Okay.
Additionally, in a closed Senate meeting, Caesar could be dealt with more subtly, away from the prying eyes and ears of the public and
That's
Caesar's
crazy.
informal protection. So, on the day of the 15th, daggers are secretly brought into the Curia of Pompey in wooden boxes usually used to carry writing tablets for record-keeping.
That's crazy.
Before Caesar's arrival, members of the conspiracy retrieve the blades and conceal them underneath their togas. Outside the building, the conspirators deploy a group of armed gladiators to
Man.
cover the Curia's exits, ensuring that Caesar won't get far should he try to escape. They are owned by the senator
They
Decimus
really wanted
Brutus,
their own man's
a man
dead.
that Caesar
That's crazy.
considers to be a close friend and ally.
Like, imagine planning this against your best friend.
Man
Like, that's crazy.
named second in his will, a man that Caesar trusts. Caesar
That's
would
crazy.
not question the presence of the gladiators, knowing them to be Decimuses. Finally, when Caesar arrives with his co-consul Mark Antony, a senator by the
Man.
name of Gaius Trebonius pulls him aside and begins.
It's so crazy though. Caesar, according to history, treated Judas like a son. Damn, man, that's crazy. I just think that they saw he was getting too powerful, and they
to speak.
didn't like that. They were
Antony
jealous.
is a big,
They-
brawny
man.
man, and his loyalty to Caesar is without question. The conspiracy thought it wise to take him out of the equation and ensure he did not intervene in Caesar's defense.
Antony,
Though the
W.
conspirators
Antony.
originally considered murdering the both of them together, they thought the optics of killing Caesar alone would be better. It would appear like
Damn.
the just killing of a tyrant, and not an arbitrary massacre. The stage is now set.
This is why Rome
All
fell.
that remains is for the signal to be given.
Damn.
That signal is Senator Tillius Cimber.
Is
As he
this the guy that
marches
killed him?
towards the dictator, he exclaims loudly that Caesar should pardon his brother and return him from exile.
I don't even know his last
Suddenly,
words.
Dozens of other senators rise from their seats, and they too start approaching Caesar, shouting words of support for Cimber's request. The senators circle him like sharks in the water, growing ever closer, until Cimber thrusts out his fist and tears Caesar's toga down, revealing the
What?
tunic underneath. Startled, Caesar recoils and shouts. Moments later, the senator Publius Casca strikes the first blow from behind, with a dagger thrust that grazes Caesar's shoulder.
Holy Aura, he tried to fucking stab him, and he still missed. Imagine being that bad. Bro's bad at the...
Rises,
Like, bro.
Twirls around and allegedly stabs Casca with a pin.
Holy Aura,
Pen
oh my...
in
Nah,
retaliation.
there's no way.
But alas, the pen is not mightier than the sword.
Damn.
In seconds, Caesar becomes enveloped by
Ah,
a
that
shroud of
sucks, bro.
togas and collapses under a hail of daggers. Two Caesar loyalists try to break through to defend him, but they are pushed back. Marcus Brutus, a leading conspirator and former Pompeian, stabs Caesar in the groin amid the frenzy. A truly humiliating blow. After
Wow.
inflicting 23 stab wounds, the crowd of assassins stand back and admire their work. The would-be king
They really admiring that? That's crazy.
tyrant is dead. In a twist of irony,
They hate on
Caesar
him
would
that
bleed
much,
out
bro.
beneath a statue of his former Civil War rival, Pompey the Great. A statue
Damn.
he had refused to tear down.
Damn.
Caesar should have seen it coming. According to classical sources, a month before his demise in February of 44 BC, he visited a fortune teller by the name of Spurinna.
Oh.
He brought to her an animal to be sacrificed. And it is said that on the altar, she could not find its heart in its chest cavity.
Ooh, hold up.
Seeing this as a bad omen, she warned Caesar his life was in danger.
Ooh.
The next day, when he returned again,
See, like, humans used to do shit like this, and they were low-key right sometimes. And now we we say, nah, that ain't true. Like, nah, there's no such thing. Like, bro, come on, bro. We was doing this shit 44 BC. Like, what?
From the
Like, that's
entrails
crazy.
of the animal, she divined that Caesar would come to great harm on the Ides of March,
Damn.
otherwise known as the 15th,
She really predicted
the
that.
midpoint of the month. But
Yeah.
that wasn't all. The Roman historian Plutarch tells us that on the day before the 15th, Caesar and a fellow senator began discussing the best way to die. To which
What?
Caesar responded, quote, "A death which is unexpected." Ominously, later that evening, when he and his wife Calpurnia were asleep, the windows and doors of their bedchamber flew open
What?
simultaneously, rousing
What does that
Caesar
mean?
from his slumber. His wife was yet asleep, yet she tossed and turned, muttering something under her breath. The next morning, upon waking up, she
Damn.
begged Caesar not to attend the Senate meeting, for she had dreamt their house had collapsed and seen visions of her holding Caesar's bloodied, lifeless corpse. Caesar was, by Roman standards, not particularly superstitious, but the mounting signs
Damn.
were enough to put even him at unease. To be
I
sure,
think when the signs are there, just don't ignore them, bro.
he summoned his
Just don't ignore
overseers
them.
and had them conduct sacrificial rituals. All of them yielded bad omens. That was
Bro.
enough for him to postpone the Senate meeting, resolving not to attend. So why, in the end, did he end up going? Well, his old friend, Decimus Brutus, convinced him on the morning of the Senate meeting to
Oh.
ignore the omens and attend anyway. He appealed to Caesar's ego. Would
Wow.
it not appear improper and above all ridiculous or cowardly if Caesar did not show his face at a session he summoned merely on the grounds of superstition? What would that sort of behavior do to his reputation?
Wow.
So he went, and on his way to the Curia of Pompey, he was stopped by a man on the street. The man handed him a scroll and urged him to read it immediately, claiming it concerned him. Reports tell us that this scroll supposedly contained details of the plot against him. For one reason or another, Caesar did not read it
Bro.
and walked directly into the lion's den. Caesar's death would lead to a power vacuum and civil war that determined the fate of the Republic.
Damn.
Caesar's adoptive son, Octavian, and his former consul, Mark Antony, would form an alliance with one of Caesar's most trusted generals, Marcus Lepidus.
Okay.
Together, they would hunt down the men that murdered Caesar and crush all who opposed their rule, leading ultimately to the fall
Question
of the
mark?
Republic and the rise of a hereditary monarchy under the Roman Empire. Octavian would become emperor, and he would not make his father's mistakes.
Ooh,
Caesar
okay.
pardoned many of his enemies, even promoted them and gave them honors. Where others would have destroyed every trace of Pompey, Caesar elected to keep his statues up as a show of grace. His mercy might have killed him, and it might mean that the last thing that Caesar ever saw while he was dying in a pool of his own blood was a statue of Pompey,
Damn.
staring down at him mockingly.
Wow.
Caesar treated his foes too kindly and flaunted his power too brazenly.
This is a
making
lesson,
man
though.
that people hated, not necessarily a man that they feared. In the words of the historian John Balston, if an authoritarian government was to be established successfully in the Republic's place, it must not be, like Caesar's, an inconsiderate, careless and frank authoritarianism. It must wear a Republican mask, however false.
Damn. That's sad. That's sad. Although I guess, I mean, that ego really did get to him, and like, that's just tough, bro. It's crazy how history plays out like that, bro. Like, that's crazy, bro. I guess rest in peace, Caesar. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know too much about what he did, but it seemed like he was a somewhat good guy. But he didn't. That was kind of messed up that he had to go like that, though. But W revenge for his sons getting the looks back.